What's going on, everybody? We have officially reached the final week of the 2012 NFL regular season. I completed a full season of this. I'm very happy. I'm very proud of myself, and I couldn't have done it without you guys, without your encouragement earlier this year to create this blog, Adrian Mason NFL.blog.com. None of this would have been possible, and I've enjoyed doing it. I've been doing this since around March, definitely around draft time is when I created this blog, and of course with stories in between. Of course there was a gap because I moved from Oklahoma City to Austin, but once I got back on, on calmer grounds, so to speak, for lack of a better term, I was able to pick this back up, and here we are, week 17, final week of the season. There's still a lot to be decided, both in the AFC and especially in the NFC. Last week I won 11-5, which put my record to, if I'm not mistaken, let's see. I'll get into that later. Sorry. You'll just have to see on the site. I haven't had a chance to really look it back up, but I know I won 11-5 last week. So, of course, this week I'll give you my final picks for 2012 and for the final week of the regular season. So let's get started. First, we have Tampa Bay at Atlanta. Atlanta's already sold up everything. They've got the number one seed in the NFC, so the road to the Super Bowl goes through them. Division, the whole nine. They've got everything. And from what I've heard, sources online have said that Mike Smith is going to play most of his starters. I mean, they want to play to win. They want to go 14-2. You have Tampa Bay here, who pretty much hit the skids after what's a 6-4 regular season run by the end of week 11, and they bottomed out. They've been blown out. They've given up last-second losses to teams that they shouldn't have, and they went from playoff contention to high first-round pick. And a lot of it is speculating that basically the coaching staff for the Bucs, or Greg Schiano and his staff, have pretty much just run them into the ground. And I'd say there's almost some merit to that if you watch. I mean, hell, after watching them get blasted 41-0 by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then letting the Rams come in and just run all over them. Where was that secondary at? You let Lance Kendricks, who isn't the fastest guy in the world, burn y'all for an 80-yard touchdown. You deserve to lose. So basically, Atlanta, they're playing not only for, I guess, pride, but to actually have a stellar record going into the postseason, to having momentum because they get a week off. So yeah, I'm picking Atlanta on this one. And normally I would have this stuff already jotted down. I already have my picks circled, but I'm circling them as I tell you this. So going with Atlanta. Next up, we have the Jets and the Bills, and you couldn't have picked a game between two of the most disappointing franchises in the NFL this season. I mean, we all know the three-ring circus, that's the Jets. They were a circus before the season started. They've been a circus since the season started, and they haven't stopped being the circus even though the season's getting ready to end. You got Rex Ryan pretty much saying that he never wanted Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow saying that, hey, I never really wanted to be in the Wildcat. I wanted to actually be a backup QB. Then, of course, you got Rex when Mark Sanchez was benched going to his third-string QB over Tebow when he was ready. So it's safe to say that the Tebow, I guess, experiment was not only a monumental bust, but it shouldn't have ever happened. And Tebow, you got to make better decisions, buddy. Going to the Jets, that wasn't the smartest thing. I mean, but granted, you look at the Jets, and I mean, hell, they've been to back-to-back AFC Championship games last couple seasons. They've been to the postseason recently, and you thought that with that team, they could at least make a little bit of noise in the AFC. So I can't really hold that against Tebow that much. But he got sucked into that circus, and he didn't deserve that. Regardless of what you think about his skill set and things of that nature, and yeah, it's the media, ESPN, and all these other people that keep throwing Tebow in your face. I know you're sick of it. It's ad nauseum, and I can understand that too. But at the same time, he ain't begging for it. He ain't asking for it. He just wants to go out and play and compete. The same guy that took the Denver Broncos from 1-5 to the AFC West title and knocked off the number one ranked defense in the postseason in the Steelers. Yeah, he played a major part in that. I don't care what you say. And if you're a true NFL fan, you know that. But the fact of the matter is, he was set up for failure going to the Jets. And hey, Jacksonville might come a calling. Might not turn that team around, but at least it'll be closer to home. Having said all that, we go to the Buffalo Bills, who I've already spoke about them just being a monumental bust. You even got the, like I said, you've got the owner sitting there saying that they need to draft a QB, even though they gave big money to one and Ryan Fitzpatrick, who hasn't panned out. Fred Jackson can't stay healthy. C.J. Spiller's talent is being wasted in that franchise. And then of course, the big thing was the free agent acquisition of Mario Williams, who was supposed to revamp this 4-3 defense for the Buffalo Bills. And of course, we all know they've been just beat the hell up defensively. The Patriots, the Niners, the Seahawks, I mean, they've all hung 50, almost, well, over 45 points, 45 or more points on this team. So, Chan Gailey, I think Black Monday, when it all goes down, he's gone. Dave Wanstead, I think he's gone. I guess I got to pick a winner for this stupid game, and so I'll throw the Bills a bone. I'm going to pick the Bills on this one because the Jets are a freaking mess. And it's not going to get any better because they're not going to get rid of Sperano. They're not going to get rid of the GM. If they don't get rid of the GM, if they don't get rid of that offensive coordinator, which I think is an oxymoron when you put it next to Tony Sperano's name, because offensively they've done nothing. They brought in Tebow for the Wildcat and really didn't use him for crap. Didn't really put him in, build any kind of packages for any of their skill players, if they have any. But Sperano and Tannenbaum, they got to go. They got to go. And then, of course, their special teams guru, Westerhall, he's gone. He's retiring. So their team is going to be totally different. But Rex needs to swallow his damn pride and understand that he led this team into the abyss as well. So if I'm Woody Johnson, I'm saying one more season with that guy. Otherwise, you need to switch it up because you're not going to be able to compete with the Patriots. The Dolphins are starting to rebuild. And, hey, at least the Bills suck. But they're going to beat the Jets. So I'm picking the Buffalo Bills. Next up, we have a matchup which was going to have some serious playoff implications, but it's already been wrapped up as of last week. Baltimore Ravens traveled to Cincinnati to take on Andy Dalton and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals already wrapped up the sixth and final playoff spot by beating the Pittsburgh Steelers, which meant the Steelers aren't going to the playoffs. The Baltimore Ravens had already backed into the postseason after getting blown out by Denver, but enough teams lost in the AFC to where they already clinched. And then, of course, with them undressing the Giants, they won the AFC North. So the division's wrapped up. At the most they can do is a number 3 seed, but they need a lot of things to happen to do that. They would need to win and get some serious help. But like I said, the difference between that would be them playing the Bengals again next week or playing the Colts next week. So either way, they're hosting the wild card playoff game next week. So there's really not much for them to do at this point except for rest people, get them healthy as much as possible, get them ready for next week. Other side of the coin, the Bengals, for the first time in 3 decades, pretty much, have clinched back-to-back postseason or back-to-back seasons of playoffs. Or excuse me, let me say that again because that didn't come out right at all. 3 decades it's been since the Bengals have clinched postseason berths in back-to-back seasons. They accomplished that this year, and of course they went last year. So hats off to Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis, I don't know how he does it, man. Like the teams he's coached over the years, I mean, they've been terrible, but give credit to the ownership for sticking with them, and he's really put a really solid team together. Of course, it helps when you have Andy Dalton and AJ Green doing what they do, Geno Atkins on defense, Leon Hall, and guys like that. Heck, even Pac-Man Jones on special teams. You know what I mean? Like, basically, they've created a team that, excuse me, that's actually, you know, they could actually put it together and actually beat the big name teams. They can make moves. But like I said, this is a game that really doesn't have much to offer other than just being a game because the Bengals are locked in as the number 6 seed. Might as well say it, the Ravens are the number 4 seed. So, having said that, this is a divisional game. And I know Cincinnati wants to go in with some momentum, and I know Baltimore just wants to get healthy. So I'm picking Cincinnati at home. I think the Ravens want to rest up as many people as possible in this. They want to get Ray Lewis back for the playoffs. They want to rest. They want to make sure guys like Ray Rice and Torrey Smith and Anquan Bolden. I think Joe Flacco maybe play a couple series, but I think the backups are going to get some burn for the Ravens, and that's why I picked the Cincinnati Bengals. Now we come to a game that actually has some playoff implications, and this is in the NFC, folks. Two NFC North rivals. We have the Chicago Bears, who went from 7-1 to 8-6 or 8-7 or 9-6. I take that back. 9-6, 7-1 to 9-6. They're on the verge of another monumental second half collapse, which we haven't seen since the likes of the Washington Redskins in the 90s or the late 90s and early 2000s. They traveled to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions, who pretty much packed it in. Of course, Calvin Johnson broke the single-season receiving yards record held by Jerry Rice in 1995. He's going for the first 2,000-yard receiving season in NFL history. It's the only thing they're playing for. Not only that, I take that back. They're also playing to play spoiler because they know the Bears have to come in and win. They win, they have to see what happens between the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. But they need to win to assure them at least an opportunity to be a candidate for that final playoff spot, because the Seahawks have already clinched the number five seed with their beatdown of the Niners last Sunday. But the Bears need to win, and they need some help. And they need help in the form of the Green Bay Packers doing them a favor and beating the Minnesota Vikings, which I'll get to that game in a moment. But the Bears are playing. They know that they're desperate. They know they have to win this game. They must win this game to even have a shot. And so with that, I am picking the Chicago Bears. The Detroit Lions don't have anything going for them. They've already phoned it in. They phoned it in a while back. I mean, you get beat by a team that got beat 58-0 and get blown out by that same team, you phoned it in. So, the Bears. Another meaningless game, Jacksonville Jaguars, Tennessee Titans. Could be some huge shakeup in the camp of the Jaguars, coaching the whole nine. I mean, basically, Malarkey and his staff, I don't see them lasting. I think they're gone. Blaine Gabbert, man, feel for the kid, but I don't think he's the one. I think he was the undercooked turkey draft pick. They pulled him out of the oven way too soon. And Maurice Jones-Drew, I mean, he's opted to have surgery, so he's going to be out until after the draft, which he's going to be out till May. But, I mean, there's a huge storyline with that. And, ladies and gentlemen, once again, ask Chris Johnson. Holding out for that big money contract will ruin your season. Ruin them JDs. Tennessee, Mike Munchak, he's on the hot seat as well. I mean, Black Monday could see both head coaches for both of these teams gone. Malarkey and Munchak, if there's a high possibility that, because Bud Adams, owner of the Titans, he ain't happy. He damn sure ain't happy with what happened to this team this season. And Shalik Khan, he wants to get this team back to, being exciting and marketable. Tim Tebow, line one. But obviously these two still have to play the game. And I think the Titans, since they're at home, I give them the nod. It's really the lesser of two evils in this game. Jake Locker, jury's out on him. He's got one more season to really turn his season around, or turn his career around, before he's relegated to backup status and pretty much bust status. But at home, got the Titans. Next up, another game with some seeding implications, because both of these teams are in the playoffs. However, one team needs this game more than the other, and I referenced the Houston Texans at the Indianapolis Colts. Of course, Chuck Pagano is coming back, and we all know the story with him battling the cancer and the team rallying around Bruce Arians and making an improbable playoff run. They are in the playoffs. They are the number 5 seed. So emotions will be running high because he'll be back on the sidelines, and of course, they're at home. So emotionally charged game. Having said that, the Houston Texans, no. They win. They are the number 1 seed in the AFC. Home field, period. They've squandered many a chance. They got blown out by the Patriots, and then they turn around. They win against the Buffalo Bills, very ugly win. Then they turn around and lose at home to the Minnesota Vikings. They held Adrian Peterson under 100 yards, but the Vikings got loose. So they squandered that opportunity. And they know they lose and either Denver wins or New England wins, they can go as far back. They can drop to the number 2, if not the number 3 seed. They can go from home field to a wild card game. So they know they have to win this game. Colts will love nothing more than to play spoiler. And the Colts have history on their side because since the Houston Texans franchise has existed since 2002, they have never beaten the Colts at home. They've never beaten the Colts at Indy. Every year. And of course, we remember Sage Rosenfels with the helicopter whirl and the collapse in that game, you know. But the Houston Texans have problems beating the Colts at home. Having said that, I think since 2012 has been an odd year anyway, I think the Houston Texans finally get over that hump. They clinch number 1 seed. The Super Bowl goes through Houston. I'm picking the Texans. Next up, Carolina at New Orleans. Both teams are just playing to finish out the season strong. The Saints have Sean Payton back in the fold for another 5 years, and $8 million a year, highest paid head coach, which we all saw coming. I don't know. And if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, you should have known better. Sean Payton was not going to go to a team where he doesn't have the power and the control he has like he does in New Orleans. Carolina, there was speculation that Ron Rivera's job was on the line. I think with the recent winning streak that they've been on, and if they win and go 7-9, I think Rivera keeps his job. He might even keep his job out if they lose to New Orleans because they've played a hell of a lot better. He has the defensive rookie of the year in Luke Kuechly. Hope I said his last name right. Linebacker from Boston College who's been a tackling machine. Cam Newton has definitely got over his sophomore slump in the middle of the season, and he's been turning it up. Other than that run game, you know, the Panthers have definitely played a lot better than they have been over recent weeks. The Saints, obviously, you know, they're playing for pride. They're playing to end the season on a high note, knowing that they're getting their main man back, and you know, obviously they're wanting to wreak havoc and raise hell next season. So be on the lookout for that. But it's at home for the Saints, and so I'm picking the Saints. Now, the next game, another one with huge playoff implications, NFC-wise. NFC East matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles at the New York Giants. What more can be said about the Eagles? This is Andy Reid. Andy Reid. This is his swan song. I think this is his finale. When Black Monday rolls around, he's gone. He's toast. The team has fallen by the wayside over the last couple seasons, and this collapse this season, I think that was the nail in the coffin for him. It's to be determined whether Michael Vick will even be back for that team, if they even go after a coach that could utilize his skill set, like a Chip Kelly, which has been floating around. That team has just been decimated. I mean, Deshaun Jackson IR. They got rid of Jason Babin. That defense sucks. The secondary sucks. Macklin's turned it up, but I mean, basically, it's not the same Eagles team that, you know, in 2010 won the NFC East, or, you know, they look nothing like the Andy Reid-led Eagles squad of years past. However, the team that they're facing, they're in desperation mode. The defending Super Bowl champions are on the verge of missing the playoffs. Last week, they got embarrassed. They got dismantled and destroyed by the Baltimore Ravens, which knocked them out of NFC East division title winning capability. They have no shot at winning the division. Their only hope is to get into the playoffs. And the only way they're getting into the playoffs is with a win and a Dallas Cowboys loss and a Chicago Bears loss and a Minnesota Vikings loss. Either one of those three teams win, they're done. Doesn't matter if they win. They're finished because of strength of scheduling, and in the Dallas Cowboys situation, head-to-head matchup and division schedule, and basically strength of division wins. The Giants, they've been inconsistent. The first half of the season, they went 6-2. They were, destroying teams. I mean, they destroyed the Niners at home, and they had that game where they just made that improbable comeback against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, another first half team, and outside of their division losses, I mean, they were running roughshod. I mean, heck, you were thinking, hey, Super Bowl champs, they're doing it big, and you know what? They're going to be the team to look after. And then reality kicked in. They got blown out by the Bengals. They got beat by the Steelers, who aren't going to the playoffs. Who else did they lose to? How we forget? They got blanked. They got blasted, destroyed, and blown out by the team that they beat 24-2 in the postseason, the Atlanta Falcons. So they've been blown out 2 times, like in back-to-back games. They got blown out in back-to-back games. They got shut out 34 to nothing to the Atlanta Falcons, and then they were undressed last week by the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, basically, they went from first half juggernauts to second half jesters. And they put themselves in this position with the inconsistent play of Eli Manning, the inconsistent play of their defense. I mean, they looked terrible. And then, of course, Hakeem Nicks just was not healthy this season. Martellus Bennett, inconsistent. Victor Cruz, he had the case of the dropsies. I mean, it was just bad. It was just bad all over for that team. And having said all that, I think they win, but I don't think they get in. Because, like I said, I have the Bears winning. And if the Bears win, it's a wrap for them. It's a wrap for the Giants. So they're playing just to keep their playoff hopes alive and hoping for the best at this point. Philly's done. Andy Reid's done. Fly, Eagles, fly into the ground. Giants win. Next up, Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers and my potted meat game of the week. Neither team has anything to play for. Like I said, the Steelers were knocked out of playoff contention when they lost to the Bengals. 7-8 right now. But that goes into the whole thing about the Steelers, where they win, they go big one season, and then they don't go to the playoffs the next season. They're inconsistent like that. So next year they'll make the playoffs if history holds true. This season they won't. 7-8, totally disappointing season. I mean, the defense is old and ragged. I mean, Roethlisberger, definitely not the season he anticipated. Who knows if Mike Wallace will even be back for Pittsburgh next season. Rashard Mendenhall, his inconsistent play. And just that team was just a total disappointment. So if you're a Steelers fan, yeah, you're thoroughly disappointed with this season. But they get to host the Cleveland Browns, who obviously they're going to be without their GM, or not their GM. Actually, I think their GM. But definitely without their head coach. Pat Shurmur's done. Pat Shurmur's toast. So it's going to be a new look for them. They're not sold on Brandon Weeden, but they do love Trent Richardson. They do love Josh Gordon, but I think Weeden, he's in trouble too. So it'll be the second time, it's the second Big 12 quarterback that's gone to Cleveland and has pretty much flamed out. Possibly. Colt McCoy, he got a raw deal, but yeah, he's done. And Weeden, if speculation is correct, he ain't gonna be there much longer either. But in that sense, Pittsburgh gets back to 8-8, some form of pride, some form of high note happy win. So yeah, I have the Steelers winning this one. Kansas City at Denver. Denver's already wrapped up the division. They're looking to clinch a first round bye, if not home field, and they can do this with a win and a Houston Texans loss. They can get a first round bye with the win. So they win, they're the number 2 seed. If they win and Houston loses, home field advantage. So having said that, it's Kansas City. They're playing for that number 1 pick. So Denver gets the dupe, and they're just hoping for the best. Either Houston loses, or that's what they're waiting on. I think they're gonna beat Kansas City. It's at Denver, so their main thing is they win and they wait to see if they're the number 2 or the number 1 seed. So Broncos. Now, this is a major game here, folks. This is a big one. One of the big ones tonight, or today. The Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. The Green Bay Packers, with a win, are the number 2 seed. Period. That's all they need to do. Win, and they get a first round bye. The Vikings, they win, they're in. So there are a lot of teams that are praying that the Green Bay Packers beat the Minnesota Vikings. That's the Giants and the Bears. Well, I say a lot, but it's the Giants, the Bears, and the Washington Redskins. Well, I'll get to them in a minute. But those three teams are hoping that the Packers beat the Vikings. This one's going to be a slugfest. Adrian Peterson is chasing Eric Dickerson's record of 2,105 yards rushing. He wants to be the next 2,000-yard running back. He wants that record, but he needs 208 yards to do it. So the Green Bay Packers should expect a heavy dose of all day. And you know what? I'm picking the Vikings to upset the Green Bay Packers and get into the postseason. They want this. They want this really bad. And as a matter of fact, they're at home. They're in Minnesota. So you know they're going to be coming with it. So I say close victory for the Vikings. Skol Vikings. They clinch the number 6 seed, thus rendering the Chicago Bears win, the New York Giants win, useless. Miami and New England. New England knew that they blew a huge chance to clinch a first-round bye when they lost to San Francisco at home. Because now they're sitting on the number 3 seed behind the Denver Broncos. They need the Broncos to, out of all things, lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. And by the way, Kansas City Chiefs, Romeo Crennel, Black Monday, he's done. And no, I didn't use Black Monday because he's black. That's what they call it. So get over it. Anyway, Miami, New England. New England knows they need to win this one because they need to win and they need to hope to God that the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Denver Broncos, because if they do that, the New England Patriots move back into the number 2 spot and they clinch a first-round bye. Now, if Houston loses and Denver loses and New England wins, New England gets home field. I just don't see either one of those two teams losing today, unfortunately. So they're going to be stuck at the number 3 seed, and I'm giving them, and they get the win. They get the win regardless, but asking Kansas City to beat Denver is asking a little too much. Now, they could clinch a first-round bye if the Colts get emotionally charged and beat the Houston Texans, but I have Houston winning that one. So New England stays as a 3 seed. Next up, Oakland, San Diego. Major shakeup in Oakland. I see a lot of personnel changes in Oakland. The Norv Turner era is finally coming to an end, as is the A.J. Smith era as well. Black Monday is going to hit those two as well. And in this case, they're going to send Norv Turner out on a high note with a "you're fired" victory over Oakland. Now, next matchup, NFC West rivals. Arizona Cardinals travel to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. 49ers blew a chance to clinch a first-round bye by getting their asses destroyed in Seattle. That was an ugly game, and you know I'm a Niners fan, so you know how I felt about that. But they know they have to win this game. For one, they win this game, they win the division. They lose, Seattle wins the division. Niners are on the road. They drop to the number 5 seed, and they take on whoever wins the NFC East. They need to win this game. And conventional wisdom states that under Harbaugh, the 49ers, coming off a loss, are 6-0. 7-0. Yeah, I don't give a damn. Biased, but it's a fact. It's statistics. Look it up. They win at home. They win at home. They win the division. So at worst, they're the number 3 seed. However, they win and Green Bay loses. Matter of fact, Green Bay plays the early game. So if they know that the Green Bay Packers lost and they win against the Arizona Cardinals, they clinch that first-round bye. So it's contingent upon they need the Vikings to do them a favor by beating the Packers. When the Packers lose to the Vikings, the Niners beat the Cardinals. Niners are the number 2 seed. Simple as that. St. Louis at Seattle. The juggernauts of the second half of the season, known as the Seattle Seahawks, who have just been pummeling anybody in their path, travel. Well, they're at home. They're 7-0 at home. And they get the St. Louis Rams, who, don't sleep on them. They're 7-7-1, which is tremendous for them, considering where they've been in the last few years. Jeff Fisher and that coaching staff has done a remarkable job turning that team around with stingy defense and just really keeping Bradford under wraps. Now, thing is, Bradford isn't exactly blowing people away with his play, but he's doing enough. I mean, he's a better Sanchez at this point, if you want to look up statistics, numbers, and all that stuff. He's You look at the Cam Newtons, you look at the Andrew Lucks, you look at the RG3s, you look at the Russell Wilsons, the Kaepernicks. They will blow you away with dynamic play. Bradford doesn't. But having said that, they are 7-7-1. They were in playoff contention until they got their asses kicked by the Vikings. But at this point, they're playing to have their first non-losing season in quite a while. Since, 2005, I think? But they travel to Seattle, which ain't the easiest place to play. Having said that, the Seahawks, they beat the Rams and the Niners lose, they win the division. If they win and the Niners lose and the Packers lose, they become the number 2 seed. That week 3 game, that Monday night game at Seattle, it's going to loom huge. The Hail Mary looms huge in this one. So, in this one I have the Seahawks winning a close one. The Rams are going to come with it, but I see the Seahawks winning this one and closing out with an 11-5 record. The big game, the main event, ladies and gentlemen, the Sunday night game that was flex. The Dallas Cowboys at the Washington Redskins. Winner takes all. The winner of this game wins the NFC East. And this is the second year in a row the Cowboys are in the position going into Week 17 where they need a win to win the division. The Washington Redskins, who were 3-6 at one point, have reeled off 6 straight victories and are looking to take the next step in beating the Cowboys, winning the division, and getting into the playoffs with their rookie phenom, Robert Griffin III. If the Cowboys win, they're in. There's no other way around it. They lose, they're done. If the Washington Redskins win, they're in. However, if they lose and Dallas wins the division, they still have a chance. Because if the Bears lose and the Vikings lose, even though Washington loses, they're in the playoffs. They get the playoff spot. But, like I said, I already had the Vikings winning. So, having said that, hail to the Redskins. I have them clinching the NFC East. There you have it, folks. And those are my final picks for 2012. Final picks for the regular season. And thank you all who've been watching and who've been paying attention. And I thank you. I definitely appreciate the love and the support. And yeah, it's been a fun 2012 doing this. And I don't give a damn what Jim Morris says. I will be back next week to talk playoffs. I will talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? Yes, absolutely. I'm talking playoffs next week because it's the postseason. It's the second season. It's the season that matters. So by this time next week, we will have our first playoff games on that Saturday and that Sunday. We will have the playoff seedings, and I will be back for my picks for that and just really analysis on the teams that are going into the playoffs, their strengths, their weaknesses, why they will win, why they would lose. So having said that, enjoy the games and Happy New Year.